Welcome back to the AI Wave. I'm your host, Chris Parisi, and this episode is a great one. It's with Travis Escobar, and we're going to talk about the AI and education, specifically about the AI force. Nope, not the state one, but the one with the City of Providence School Board. So Travis is the vice president on the school board, and we're going to hear what his thoughts are on the AI task force and how it's going to impact our education system. We'll talk a little bit about our relationship with millennial Rhode Island and much more of how we think Rhode Island could be the great state here in America. So stay tuned and continue to ride this AI wave. All right, we have a great guest today, a close friend of mine, the one and only Travis Escobar. Travis, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Travis is a very influential and positive person here in our community in Rhode Island. Travis and I have known each other for many years, almost a decade now.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when we started, we talked about how we can reduce the brain drain. We just got out of college. And now, and ever since then, we've been working together through millennial Rhode Island. It's been a joy, being by your side throughout everything that we've been doing, and really happy to have you here talk about and part of our AI and education series.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited for the conversation and just excited for what has been happening around AI in Rhode Island, especially a lot of the work that you've been leading.
Oh, I appreciate it. And let's kind of go back, though, because it does tell a lot about your character and your passion and your community-driven mindset when it comes to millennial Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. Not just giving us a shameless plug here, but at millennial Rhode Island on Instagram. What made you be a co-founder in that and lead it to this day? And how many years has it been?
We're 9 years now.
9 years.
9 years. So when I graduated from Rhode Island College, first my family graduated high school and college, I was part of political campaigns, specifically Lorza's for running for mayor campaign in 2014. Went to a lot of different spaces, and I didn't see a lot of programming for young professionals, and definitely didn't see a lot of diversity in terms of that type of programming. That also coincided with the articles coming out talking about our millennials, lazy, narcissistic, yada, yada, all these type of branding aspects, and a brain drain of young people leaving the state.
Third highest rate we had. I don't know if it still is, but at one point we had the third highest rate of those that get educated in the state that leave.
Yeah, I would say right now we're probably benefiting from Massachusetts, high housing costs in terms of young people coming to Rhode Island. But yeah, it's a completely different environment today for Rhode Island. And you could see that just with the housing competition than it was back in 2014. And just growing up in Rhode Island, there was always this negativity about, what is in this state? What is possible in the state? Should I stay in this state? Can I make money in the state? Can I can I grow a family in the state, right? And taking millennial Rhode Island with other talented young professionals and really flipping some of the negative connotations about millennial and of the state and making it into a positive. So, connecting young professionals with each other, doing financial education programming. Really, and this is what goes back to, the heart of conversation around AI, really talking about what is the future for the state, right? Where can we be competitive? Let's not be behind. There's always this sort of notion, we just got to follow Massachusetts. We got to follow, we got to follow some other big state we got to have some other state innovate first before we could jump on board. It's always a sort of, Rhode Island's the last to do X, Y, and Z. And with millennial Rhode Island, it was bringing young, talented people together so we can influence the state to have conversations of making sure that this state is growing in the future, not just being left behind.
Because if we do that, then we can accomplish what our main hashtag is, which is hashtag choose RI.
Yes.
If you build something so special, we're able to have these talented folks want to actually stay in Rhode Island. And if you build the community, there's more of that connection of want to, be with those that you've grown relationships with professionally and then personally over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to connect just younger generations with each other, so we know who we are and how we could connect, how we could work together, and that definitely makes a better community, a better state.
I'm laughing to myself because 9 years ago when Millennial Rhode Island started, we were the young generation.
Yeah.
And now we're connecting the younger generations. Jack, our producer in the background, I think you're Gen Z. So, we're connecting the next generation to us older millennials, which is wild to say. But that is so important, is to continue this momentum that, hey, millennials, Gen Z, we're not lazy. We're actually very hungry, and we grew up in very difficult times. I mean, I graduated college right when this whole recession happened in 2009, not to give my age out, don't do the math. And it's not any easier for those that are graduating college today or the past few years or in 2020. So it's important to keep that community going and have that conversation of, why does Rhode Island have to be the last? Why can't we be the first? And that's been a big part of what I've been saying with this whole AI initiative here on Rhode Island, is why not have Rhode Island the leader in this AI-driven economy? And I know that's like far-fetched for a lot of people to really process and understand, but it's possible. And if we're not the leader, we could be a leader. And that will give us light years ahead of where we've been in the past. Yeah.
And again, kudos to you for making this conversation really elevate. Because I think when you talk about AI, and especially policy, there's so many ways you can explore that aspect that I think a good amount of elected officials, a good amount of just tech experts, like, all right, so what are we supposed to do here?
Right.
And when we're talking about the Providence School District and having sort of an AI task force, AI subcommittee, right? Like, I'm not the expert, right? Chris, right? Your background is not necessarily in tech, but you're a convener. You're growing into this expert in AI with all the work that you're doing. But I think what's really important that you and I get is, hey, this is coming. This is the future. How do we bring stakeholders together and make the state better?
Exactly. And you're doing that with the Providence School Board. So Travis is vice president of the Providence School Board. And you created this initiative to say, hey, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I saw it was pretty much you saying, hey, we should all convene and we really need to have this difficult conversation around AI and education, specifically for the school district of the city of Providence. Is that kind of correct, right? And what has happened since you kind of went out there into the public saying, like, here's what we should be doing?
Yeah, so there's a 1A, 1B of why, and we're going to have our first official meeting late May, last week of May, but toward the fourth quarter of 2023, you doing a lot of work to elevate AI within the state, a lot of advocacy, and really being, in the forefront of, like, Rhode Island needs to get on top of this. So that was one, just having that conversation. And two, in my work, I've had the opportunity to be around hundreds of high schoolers across the state, either do career workshops or financial education workshops. And I like to toss in questions. I like to toss in questions saying, like, what social media are you using? A lot of them using Snapchat, which also has an AI function, part of Snapchat. What music you're listening to. And when ChatGPT was, beginning in that forefront, right? I would ask, like, how many are you using ChatGPT? And you would see, for some of the conferences I've been part of, a lot of suburban kids, a lot of suburban high schoolers, they would use it. And I joke, are you using it for your high school work? Are you using it for your work? Are you using it for homework? And they would laugh about that. Whereas some of the urban districts, like, yes, you had some familiarity with AI or some Providence high school students, but not as much. And one, it told me just in general, like, our education system, our country's education system, we need to think about AI because students are using it, right? We've had The Daily, they did a great podcast couple of months ago in 2023 where it was college students saying, hey, it's making my life easier to use AI for my work, for my paper. And then you'd have professors. I mean, there was one professor in that podcast talking about how sad they were because they didn't know if they were reading authentic work or they were reading something else. But you would hear the students and they're learning, but they're also getting the aspect of, hey, we're getting our work done more efficiently. So to bring it back to high school and teachers, I think it's about how do we have this conversation? We know it's happening. We know students are going to use it. You're not going to be able to put this away, right? So what are the benefits, right, of just students using AI? What are the benefits for teachers? What are the benefits for administrators? And we need to have that conversation because it is here and AI is going to keep rapidly changing and evolving. And you don't want to be behind, especially with school districts like Providence that have years to struggle, right? So there's this new technology out here. How can we personalize learning for our students, right? How is there systems in place that we can help principals, administrators, and teachers instead of having some bureaucratic, grading, whatever's going on in terms of work that they have to do? How can we make their work more efficient so they get back to the actual learning and connecting with students? And again, not the expert, right, in terms of this, but I know that we need to have this conversation and we need to think about not only Providence, but other school districts. What resources do we need to really invest in these technologies? Because even if it's like something like ChatGPT and you want a subscription, well, that's $20 potentially per student, right? Like, so if we do want that in the classroom, that is going to cost money. And I believe, platforms like ChatGPT, other platforms that are going to be created that is going to be used in education, that is going to cost money, similar to how school districts license out Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint technology, right? And we already have, especially in Providence right now, such a funding issue. I think that's also part of the conversation as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think because, you said quite a bit there, and I'm trying to think, like, how would you say the key elements of this task force that you have, we're both in task force for AI here, that's ironic, what would you say, like, the key outcomes would you envision for this initial AI task force for the City of Providence School Board?
Well, I would say, what you're doing is so holistic statewide, and it's jobs, it's economy, right?
With the state AI task force?
Right. There's going to be so many topics.
Yeah, there are. It's a lot.
There's a lot of topics that you're going to dive in. And what I'm hoping, what we're going to be doing in Providence is just really just to support. I view it as like, we're going to, everyone knows that the state has, control of the Providence School District. So I think there is an aspect of, working with the Rhode Island Department of Education in terms of, whatever we convene, whatever our reporting is for AI. And I think a lot of it right now is just compiling a lot of the research that's already done in AI and education. And how does that work toward what we have going on in Providence? A lot of it could not even be recreating the wheel, right? Or creating something new. It could just be, gathering information and seeing what we want to do in the future, sort of like a long-term planning. But, I want to be very specific toward education. The overall goal is to make sure that Providence Public Schools, other school districts, especially urban school districts, we don't have a technology gap, we don't have a skills gap, because if other districts, other suburban districts, more affluent districts, young people are already using this technology, they're going to take it with them to college, they're going to figure out more ways how they can use AI to benefit their learning, whether they're starting jobs or in their careers. Professionals are already using AI across the board, right? Sure. So I think when I talk about Providence, I want to make sure there's not that divide, there's not that gap, and we are introducing our young people to these new technologies. So when they're in college, right, and then they're with a more diverse subset, whatever, and they're like, oh, you don't know about this platform, you don't know about this platform that can help you write, this platform that can help you code, right, if you're in tech. So many different aspects. I don't want our students in Providence to get caught off guard, left behind, right? Yeah.
And that's the key thing, because it sounds like even through your day job, you are visiting these schools and you're already hearing that they are a little behind in some of these more urban or specifically Providence district. And what's great about AI is it democratizes information, skill sets. Someone in high school has access to the same amount of information and can do almost the same thing that someone with years of experience, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're not able to provide access to that technology, then you are setting up the future generation to fail. Because the education system should be built based on economic output. Right, we want to educate our citizens so that they can produce in our economy, right? Mm-hmm. And the jobs that are going to be available and created in the near future, people can't even think of today, right?
Yeah.
If you think about like the internet and before the internet, mm-hmm. people were worried actually that computing and the internet were going to take a lot of jobs. Yeah. Well, guess what? There was a lot of jobs that were created, jobs you couldn't think of. Same thing with the smartphone, and even if you go back to the Industrial Revolution, mm-hmm. and again, Rhode Island was a leader in the American Industrial Revolution. Why not the AI Revolution? But if you go back then, people thought, oh, this is Industrial Revolution is going to take away a lot of our jobs and farmers. Well, it was literally the opposite.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of new jobs that we have to train our workforce, which starts at the education system. So your point of making sure we don't leave any student left behind and we actually set them up for success is very important for the overall economic health of the state of Rhode Island.
And one thing I wanted to add, specific to Providence and just a lot of school districts across the country, is we have a lot of multilingual learners. And there is a gap of having teachers that are, speaking multiple languages. Well, another thing I want to explore is how can AI help with that, right? Maybe that is not like today, but like mm-hmm. down the line, how do we help multilingual learners as well with different platforms, create a better connectivity between our teachers and students. That's just one thing I wanted to note as well, and it's unique. And so that's what I want to do with the task force, really convene folks, do really just maybe compiling a lot of the research that has already been done around AI and education and public school system. How does that connect specifically to Providence? And share that information with the state task force at large, because, right, this is going to be a very micro-targeted education task force, and hopefully raise enough awareness that, our mayor, future school board members, city council members, just think about it, right? Mm-hmm. Just think about, hey, this is here, this is coming. How can we use the benefits of it? And the other thing I definitely want to mention is the ethical use of AI. Mm-hmm. So, I've had folks, cite AI, like they've cited that like, is that the future, right? So if a student uses that for their paper and they're using ChatGPT or whatever platforms that are getting created, I'm pretty sure a bunch of platforms that are similar to ChatGPT, is there an ethical way to use that so it's acceptable for a student to use that, right? Because there are different opinions of using AI. There are folks that are saying, well, that's not real work, or you're cheating, right? Is that necessarily true? If I'm writing an original thought, if a student is writing an original thought because they're analyzing, I don't know, give me a high school book. If they're analyzing To Kill a Mockingbird, or To Kill a Mockingbird, definitely a high school book, right?
Okay. Yeah, it is.
Right, years go by. But let's say they're using ChatGPT. They have an original thought about To Kill a Mockingbird, and they're using ChatGPT to really filter out their original thought to enhance it. Yeah. And then they use it to write a paper. Is that cheating?
Right, because I guess it depends on the prompt that they put in.
Yes.
And the data that they give it, right? Because ideally they draft their own paper with own original thought, and then maybe AI can help edit and optimize it. Then they still go back and edit it and wordsmith it in their tone and making sure it's all accurate. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think that's plagiarism, right? I mean, like, what if you just use Grammarly? Mm-hmm. Grammarly is AI, and it made your grammar better on your paper. Is that cheating?
Assume Microsoft Word, if not already, is going to just be doing that for you.
Right. It is.
It is. Yeah.
So it's a good point when it comes to ethical use and also biases that are built in. Mm-hmm. Right? You can have biases built into AI that you don't want them to be built in. Right? There's some reports out there where there was questions, and because they used names that were what they called black sounding names, the outputs were different. Like AI was literally racist. And we need to make sure that the models that we're using removes these biases as best as it can, because really the data that it's using is all the data that's out there.
Yeah.
And if it's doing that, and sometimes it can go too extreme, like Google Gemini did when it was generating images of that were just incorrect, and they had to peel it back. We have to make sure we're ethical, and we have to make sure the biases. I know in the task force, one of the first things that we're most likely going to be doing, according to the AI executive order that's public, so I can't get in trouble, is I was already told don't say too much.
I feel like Rhode Island, you got to do that,
right? And if you're watching on YouTube, you know that this is an episode that's after 5 on a Friday. For those listening to audio, there is a small glass of whiskey here with Travis and I.
This is the first one, right?
First one. I don't know what episode number we're on, around 25 or so. We saved it with Travis. But another thing that I want to go on beyond the code of ethics that we're going to build at the state task force. You mentioned a lot about the students, but before we were on camera, you mentioned a lot about the teachers, and the administrations, and even the teachers union that's worried about, is AI going to replace my job?
Yeah.
Preface it to the last episode before this is with Sam. And he was talking about how there's 5 facets of teaching. Teachers had 5 jobs, and he was mentioning coaching and mentoring and grading and manage. Well, with AI, you can kind of remove some of those jobs off of your plate, such as grading. So no teacher loves to grade. Ooh, I can't wait to go grade. So that you can maybe do a little bit more on the coaching, on the mentorship aspects of it. So I don't, and hope not, right? I have a teacher that's a teacher. I have a sister that's a teacher, and I have a brother-in-law that's an administrator. AI better not replace teachers. They're so invaluable.
Yeah.
I don't think they will be, but maybe tutors. But what are your thoughts on how AI in education from the educator perspective?
I mean, you need a human in the classroom.
Yeah.
I don't foresee an aspect where that seems very Black Mirror if we're sending students into a room and it's just some AI robot. I don't know. I don't even know how you would
do
that. Yeah. So I understand the fears of replacement, especially because it's a hard time to get full-time teachers, right?
Yeah.
It's just all across.
Because they don't get paid well enough.
They don't get paid well enough. I mean, I know this is not necessarily but I think in America, it's not even, but I think they should be making anywhere from $75,000 to $100,000 minimum.
Right.
Because if you do that, you're gonna have a workforce.
Fun little side story. In Japan, there's a story that personifies the value that they put on education. There was this woman or man, I forget exactly what it was, who was really trying so hard to be a teacher, educated, and just couldn't quite get it. So they're like, fine, I'll just be a doctor. Literally, that's what happened. It's teacher, I couldn't make it. All right, fine, I'll just be a doctor. That's how valuable teachers are in their system. For us, it ain't like that. You try to be, you're making 2 to 3x as a doctor, and but education and being teachers is just so important.
I think teachers make about $45,000. I think that's the first step level. Memory serves me correctly. I think a teacher that's tenured can get into the 6-figure range. But for AI to replace teachers, no, what's really going to do damage, continued damage, not in Providence, not just Rhode Island, across America, is we just don't pay teachers. What's really going to do damage is just the other jobs that are available out there. We're really evolving. Big companies are evolving where you don't necessarily need a college degree to go get into a career field that's going to pay you a good amount of money. And we also understand that young people, They have access to a lot of research, and they're seeing housing prices. They're here, you know, young people are not dumb, right? They're going into college, they're understanding this is the market, this is the economy, and they're going to go into, obviously, a lot of young people want to get into jobs that relate to who they are, who they want to be, but they also want to make sure they're going to own a house, right? The American dream is always going to be the American dream. You want a house, you want to start a family, you want to, you know, you want to maybe take some trips, you want to live a good, healthy life, and do other things that are great for you and great for the community. But it starts with like being financially stable. So if there's anything that's going to impact the education workforce, it's not going to be AI. It's going to be that we don't pay teachers what they should be paid. What I'm hoping the AI conversation brings, not only in Providence, not only statewide, other task forces across the country, is how do we use AI to help teachers, because they are doing so much. Right. They're asked to do so much. That's why they should be paid a lot more than what they're paid. They're asked to do so much. So how can we use AI to create more efficiencies in their work so they can do what's really important, connecting with the students, that actual, you know, learning, coaching, developing young minds in our community.
It's one of the most important jobs that we have in our society.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's go back to a second. You just said the American dream. I have a question for you, Trav. Mm-hmm. Is the American dream dead?
Is the American dream dead? No, it's not dead. I think it's evolving. It evolves every generation, what the American dream is. But I think there's some foundational aspects of what the American dream, I mean, it's to be happy, to be financially stable, for some folks to have a family, for other folks. And family can be a wide range. It could be having kids. There are young people of our generation deciding not to have kids. Could be just having a good support group, a good friend support group, a job that you feel that you really love, and you're being your best at, and you're able to sort of give back to community, or being part of a community. And I think the American dream is ever evolving, but it's not dead. And I know there's a lot of negativity that, you know, goes on in our society today, and even like, especially on the topic of AI, you and I, like, we sort of think like the positives that sort of center around like this new technology, but there's so many negatives that you can go into it and be like, oh, is it gonna kill, you know, is it gonna help kill the American dream in terms of like people being able to find jobs? Like, no, it's probably gonna help create jobs. It's gonna help create more efficiency for folks so they have more time for their family, for their hobbies. Hey, if I'm using ChatGPT to help me write an email faster to get my message across and saving me time so I can go out and live my life, shouldn't that be looked at?
Yeah. So they talk about AI creating a 4-day work week, mm-hmm. right? Or even a 3-day work week, because so much production is going to be taken by AI. Mm-hmm. Is that a bad thing, right? I mean, why not create a society that benefits people? I know it's a wild thing to think about. And yeah, we have a capitalist society, and that's cool. I know that, and that's good. But if we can still have businesses profit and people, you know, making a healthy living, then why not? I don't think the American dream is dead. I think the American dream is built on innovation. Yeah. And right now we have this once-in-a-generation opportunity when it comes to AI to really change the landscape. I know where America stands in our global society over the last 10 years, mm-hmm. you know, especially when it comes to just debt and economy, right? Keep it simple, and hasn't been as powerful as it once was. Well, if we're built on innovation, AI is where we can really take it to that next level. Mm-hmm. So I'm very bullish that AI can help Rhode Island and the United States take it to that next level, because we have always been innovators, and Rhode Islanders, you know, we're rugged, we're creative, mm-hmm. And we have a lot of immigration from the start. And I think that's what makes us, you know, so powerful. So hopefully with all that combined, we can, you know, continue that American dream to the next generations. And
I think AI, new technology, is always going to help more people realize that dream.
Right.
That's the point of new technology. You never know. AI, ChatGPT might help spark some young person create an idea that is innovative that helps out millions of lives down the line, and then they get the benefit of that to live a life that's financially stable and do things. So this could go so many different ways, but yeah, American dream is not that. And I know, and I just, we have a lot of negativity out there in the world. I think we both choose to live in, tomorrow is going to be better than today, or tomorrow can be tomorrow. But tomorrow can be better than today, as long as we work toward that.
Right.
And I think at the heart of it, that's what the AI conversation is making tomorrow better than where we're at now, whether it's education, whether it's a lot of topics that you're going to be involved in terms of the economy, small business, pretty sure healthcare. There's so many different policy, legal writing, right? Because that's a huge part of AI. Be able to aid out and help with that. Analyzing legislation. There's so many different ways, and you could sort of democratize how individuals are able to understand legislation now, right? So Congress passes a huge funding bill with hundreds and thousands of papers that are written, right? And then the average American, the average person, is not going to have enough time to sit through that. I mean, elected officials don't really sit through that.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of them are honest, right? But let's say you're able to run that through a platform, and you're able to get the high-level points, or you're able to get some of the issues concerning to this bill, that could be helpful. And it may be at minimum just helping average people that don't understand, that maybe won't be able to understand legislation that's getting written, having a platform be able to break it down to them and explain it to them so they can understand. There's so many different ways you can cut where AI is going to be beneficial, I think, improving awareness and overall education of our society. And we're just in the very, very beginning stages of this. I think if we watch this conversation back 10 years from now, we'll be like, oh my God, now AI is like
just 2 years from now, it's going to change so fast.
Yeah.
One more question on AI in education, and this is our AI in education series, episode 3. We have another one coming up with an AI professor. One question one concept that I'm really excited about is personalized learning. Right now, and there are some great educators out there that do their best to get a broad message out and then try to personalize it they best can with like the 20, 30 students that they have. And there's some solutions out there that can do this personalized learning using machine learning and AI. But what I'm really intrigued about is that everyone learns differently. Everyone has a different skill set. Everyone has a different socioeconomic background. And AI can personalize, especially as like an AI tutor, right? I always give the example that my son, Caden, who's now over 2 years old, he's going to be, as he gets older, when he's probably 6 years old, he's going to have an AI tutor, right? Everyone's going to have an AI tutor available to them as long as we make it accessible. What is your view on personalized learning in the education system utilizing AI?
Yeah, I think we're just probably at the beginning stages. I'm pretty sure, this conversation, this topic, there's probably a race of companies looking to leverage AI and help with personalized learning. But I think that's going to be one of the major aspects that's going to happen, right? Like there's going to be these platforms to be able to help out individuals, just enhance their learning experience with teachers. And this is why school districts need to get ahead of it. This is why the state needs to get ahead of it, because these technologies are probably in the beginning stages of getting developed, and I'm not aware of it, right? Are they going to be here shortly? And it's going to be introduced to school districts, being like, hey, this is how you can help your students in a different way learn these different topics, right? So yes, I think that's going to be one of the benefits that AI is going to be part of, whether there's legit policy written about it or not. I think that's where we're going to be heading to. There's going to be companies that are going to develop efficiencies for teachers using AI. It's going to happen. It's in the future, and it's like, how do we get ahead of it? And I think we talked about this off camera. The cost. there's a cost to all these platforms that students are using today, right? That teachers are using today for grading, for other professional development aspect. So what's the cost for when we're investing in AI for education? I think that's probably when you're doing your work in the statewide task force and when we're analyzing it in the school district, hopefully other school districts analyze it, what is the potential future cost that is going to be associated with having these much needed programs and technologies in our classroom, because we know it's going to be more efficient for teachers and administrators. We know we're going to have more dynamic, personalized learning for students. Hopefully part of it's helping out our multilingual learners as well, because I know those technologies are being developed, are being already in its first stages and shopped out there, and it's going to just evolve and change over the next couple of years, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be the cost. At the end of the day, it's going to be the cost, right? School districts are paying for laptops, and they're probably getting discounts on Microsoft products, but there's still a cost associated to those aspects. So what is the cost of when school districts are pivoting and investing in AI?
And what is the cost if they don't pivot into AI as well, right? The opportunity cost. I mean, I'm really excited to see what comes out of the education AI task force for the school, the city of Providence. Hats off to you for taking that initiative.
It doesn't happen if, again, 1A, 1B, if you're not basically, Travis, the future.
This is the future.
And then just our young people.
Yeah, seeing them, you see it firsthand.
If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't polling young people, hundreds of young people across the state around that, maybe I'm like, statewide, but it's like, no, they're using it now.
Right.
We really got to dive into this now.
If we wait any longer, we'll be behind.
Yeah.
All right, so last segment here. Nothing to do with education, but still with AI. How does Travis Escobar use AI personally?
Yeah, I mean, I use it to create efficiencies in my life, when needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a boring answer. Anything interesting?
Oh my God, anything interesting. A big thinker, right? And if I have an idea, I might filter it through and be like, oh, how do you execute X, Y, and Z?
It's like your executor.
It's also Google on steroids.
It is.
And you know what? So I will say this. All right, so this is funny. This is a funny one. Go off of work, off of policy, writing, all that, yada, yada, whatever. So I'll, Kendrick Lamar and Drake, that famous diss track. I mean, their famous diss series against each other. The second track Drake had was called Tailor Made Freestyle, and it used the AI voice of Snoop Dogg and Tupac. So I find that very interesting in terms of AI in music, the implementation of that. But in terms of how I've used ChatGPT in a funny way, I've used it to write diss tracks against friends. Against friends. I had a conversation with friends. I'm like, I'm gonna write a diss track for X, Y, and Z, and I've used ChatGPT to do that.
That's awesome.
So you could have ChatGPT write you a whole lot of music, a whole lot of verses, a whole lot of lyrics. I think that's probably one of its weakest platforms. Maybe I got to get better on using, the prompts for that. But yeah, that's
because you can give it a style. Yeah, right? Like give it direction. Like, all right, give me a rap in the style of Notorious B.I.G. and it's going to be a storytelling diss track, and you could be really creative about it. I mean, that's the thing with AI. It's like we're talking a lot about how Rhode Island can move forward, but you mentioned earlier how Snapchat has its little AI. Yeah. Meta has its AI now, Facebook, and a lot of people are newer, like, right? It's brand new, and people are like, but the thing is that, a lot of us are involved in AI, but people that aren't are now starting to get AI access, right? Yeah. Not everyone had GPT on their phone or whatever. So it's mainstream as it's going to be, and moving forward it's even crazier, and there's a lot of fun things you can do with AI too. It doesn't have to be so serious, and I give examples of just tell it the foods that you have in your fridge and be like, here's what I got, what can I cook tonight that's somewhat healthy.
Oh, for travel. I've used that for travel in terms of, hey,
I just went to travel in Miami this past weekend.
And you got okay, yeah. So
I was like, what neighborhoods do I avoid? What are some things I should do? And I was like, here's my address. Am I in one of those neighborhoods? And it was actually really helpful. I mean, did I tell the guys that I use AI? They'd be like, no, you nerd. I can't believe you used AI to prepare for a Miami trip. But I sure as hell did. Everything I do, I utilize AI.
Yeah. Every February, I like to go somewhere warm with me and my girlfriend, me and my partner. And
shout out Marcella.
Yeah, shout out Marcella, executive director for Latino Policy Institute. You know, no big deal.
She's the best.
Yeah, what helped pick our February 2024 trip was ChatGPT. I was like, hey, we are looking for X, Y, and Z. You know, safe, sunny, whatever things like fun, but not like
wild,
wild, right? You know. And that's how we ended up with Isla Mujeres, which is an island off of Cancun.
Oh, wow.
That met a lot of that. And now, beforehand, I've always known about Cancun, right?
Right.
I didn't know there was an island off of Cancun. Like, no one ever told me that.
I didn't know.
ChatGPT was like, hey, you know, this is one of the top, you know, rated spots that meets a lot of criteria you're looking at. And it made me look. And we ended up over there, had a great vacation. Because AI. Right.
Our travel agency's dead, right?
Oh, yeah.
It didn't help you book it, though.
No, it didn't help me book it.
Not yet.
You know, we book our own thing. But, yeah, it's been good for that, to set up some itineraries, give some ideas. Yeah, I mean, if you're not using it, I mean, I don't know. It's just you're kind of just missing out, right? Especially if you're a professional, you're already using different platforms. If you're not aware of it, you're not playing around with it. I don't know. I think you're missing out on, you know, this new technology is going to keep growing. So I always want to learn what's new out there. I always want to make sure as a professional I keep growing, and I don't want to be that person that's like 50 years old saying, oh, I don't know how to convert this to a PDF, right? Or whatever the new version of that's going to be when we're 50. I want to be ahead of it. I want to be, oh, yeah, I know X, Y, and Z.
And we don't want Rhode Island to be that older person, right? That doesn't know how. We have been. That's
asking Massachusetts, hey, how do you convert this into a PDF?
Hey, can you help me with my phone, Massachusetts? No, not no more.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of the word potential. Why not have Rhode Island be a leader?
Mm-hmm.
Like enough's enough. I'm so happy that the governor has listened,
Absolutely.
you know, said, you know what, we are going to do it. They signed an AI executive order, and that AI executive order is much more intelligent than I could ever thought of. There's 5 components in there. I was really thinking about one of them, the task force, right? Mm-hmm. There's some really smart people in the government, like Brian Tardif, that's really a part of all of this, that is light years beyond what I'm personally thinking. But that's what we need is smart people like that. We need leadership that says, let's do it. And then if we put all of us together and really take that leap forward, we can make Rhode Island a leader in this AI-driven economy. So I'm looking forward to what you have, Travis, coming up with the city of Providence. And we're going to be busy with Millennial Rhode Island. You know, we're going to keep that community going. So thank you so much for joining us. But before you leave, do you have any advice for that young generation? Because, again, we're older millennials. Mm-hmm. For that Gen Z that's just graduating right now and is like, what do I do? Do I go into AI? Do I just do something else? Or any advice in general for that young generation coming up? What would you say to them?
Yeah, number one thing is just don't be afraid to fail. Yeah, that just transcends everything. Because I get concern that social media only feeds you success. It's like, I'm an influencer, this is my success, look at me doing X, Y, and Z, all these great things. And then for some people, it's like, oh, I can never do that, right? I can never. But every successful person behind any sort of, you know, facade of what social media could give you for success is, there's a lot of failures, a lot of road bumps, a lot of things that can go wrong. And the world, life is going to punch you in the face multiple different times in multiple different ways. And you just got to figure out a way to just get back up. So that's making sure you keep learning, you keep growing. And again, don't be afraid to fail because, hey, I mean, if as long as you're not afraid to fail, like, you're going to find success.
Amen. Well said. We're going to end on that note. Travis, thank you so much. And if everyone wants to find you online, what, LinkedIn the best, Instagram?
Well, pretty easy to find. LinkedIn, Travis J. Escobar. Instagram, it's private at Travis Escobar. Pretty much if you put Travis Escobar, Rhode Island on Google, there'll be a way to find me.
We'll definitely follow this man. He is the best. He is an influencer into making our state great again here in Rhode Island. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and we'll catch you next on the AI Wave.